Hello, I'm here today with Dr. Lara Cavanaugh, MD, who is a pediatrician in Florida and a friend of mine because she is also a certified life coach. You can find her actually at Life Coaching by Lara, Lara.com. So Lara is here today to talk about eating. She was a NCAA Division I basketball player back in the day in college, and they had weekly weigh-ins, and it really affected how she felt about food then and continued then into her later adulthood. So thanks for being here, Lara.
Oh, thanks, Heather. Thanks. It's a great honor to be here on your podcast. I appreciate you reaching out to me. So I went to a college for basketball. I played Division I basketball. And, you're starting college, you're sort of like a little bit insecure anyway about yourself because you're just meeting new people. You're starting to just figure out who you are. I mean, you're only 18 years old.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit uncomfortable to begin with because I was 6 feet tall. And so I didn't quite fit into the bikini, industrial complex, whatever they call that. But I wasn't like that, 5'7" perfect body. And so I was always taller and a little bit different and pretty quiet. And so you put that into the pot and you put that over to the college sports. So we would obviously we were intense with all our workouts, and for preseason, we would do a lot of running, and then we would do a lot of weights. And when season started, we would have to do weigh-ins once a week. And normally they started on a Monday. Imagine that, you have your weekend where you go and you eat whatever you want. And then boom, Monday hits. Oh man, we got it weigh-in. So what that set up for me was restrictive eating. So basically, whenever I knew I was having a weigh-in, I wouldn't eat all day, which is not good for somebody who is trying to go to school and then go do your practice or game. And so what would happen is we would restrict eat, and we would get on the scale, and it was hidden from everybody. It was just I could see and the coach could see.
Yeah.
And then he would put it down on a piece of paper or his little notebook. And then I was humiliated, either way. I would think oh, I've gained a pound or 2 pounds, or I lost. And you have to understand, we're trying to build muscle here.
Yeah.
And so then after that, we would go to practice and then binge eat for dinner because you're so hungry because you're restricted. So it set up a very disordered eating pattern. And then
did he give you a reason for doing the weigh-ins?
well, no, we just want to make sure we were in shape.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure how we measured that. Yeah.
And would you say that a lot of the young women on the team did the same thing? Like Monday was no eat day and
Well, I don't know. I think that some of the girls probably did. But we were in class and stuff, so I really didn't know where they were eating and what they were doing before that started. But this was just my own personal experience. I mean, to sit on a scale in front of somebody, to do it yourself, you're already judging yourself, and then to do it in front of somebody and have them write it on a piece of paper. I don't even know, I didn't know what would happen, what it meant, but it meant to me that I'm not good enough. I'm way too much. This is not great. And so then you go into the sort of good food, bad food. I can't eat this, but I can eat this. So you would eat the next day salad, and then still have some restrictive patterns. So it sort of just carried over. And the interesting part of it was later on, he started just doing surprise weigh-ins. So then we wouldn't know what day it was.
Oh gosh.
So then you're like, well, should I restrict my eating today and or not? And so it got into a lot of this mind chatter, which is really not good for anyone, especially around food.
Did you guys talk about this with each other at all about
No, I think for me personally, I was so embarrassed.
Gotcha.
The weigh-in. It was such an embarrassing thing. I was taller, I was bigger. I was never obese, but I was a big woman. And we had some girls on the team that were smaller, 5'7", 5'8", and so they were always, their weight would always be less. I was always going to be like, there was 3 of us that were like 6 feet taller or taller, and we were always going to be heavier than everybody else. So it was very embarrassing. So that there was no chatter. I was very quiet about that. I never shared that with anybody.
It's funny too, though, because if you think about a basketball team, I also played basketball, not at that level, but you have the shorter people who are smaller and dribble around, and then you have the people that are underneath the basket. And if, I mean, it's perfectly normal that someone who's over 60 would, over 6 feet would weigh more than someone who's 5'7", right? I mean, that would be a normal thing.
It is a normal thing.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So I did not feel comfortable the way I looked, the way I felt about myself.
Yeah.
And I compared myself to others, right?
Sure.
And then all that judgment comes in about I'm just not right. So I just kind of dove into studies, which was fine because that got me to medical school. But I never really formed a really good relationship with food. It was a lot of mind chatter, I call it, where what do I eat today? I'm not sure what to eat today. Is this going to go right to my hips? And then a little bit of out of control eating, where you have a piece of pie and then you have another piece, or you have one brownie and then you have another brownie. And then afterwards, of course, your stomach hurts and you're like, why did I eat that? And oh, tomorrow I'm going to restrict my food again. So it's almost like I put myself on my own restrictive diet, which I think is just, it's so counterproductive and it's very unhealthy.
Yeah, that's tough. You know, I was sharing with you earlier that I was online, and there are a couple of both male and female runners who are talking about weigh-ins at their college, weekly weigh-ins for their running teams, and doing some pushback, you know, and as to why do we have to have these weigh-ins, and not really getting any answers yet, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how widespread this issue was, but it could be. And it's really not good for that woman who's developing themselves, because, you know, for me, I tended to be trying to get approval from others was a big thing, and people pleasing and being the perfectionist that I was. And so if I didn't weigh a certain weight, then I wouldn't get approval. And then I would not feel good about myself too. So there was a lot of underlying, you know, thoughts that really did not serve me.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And and you look back and you think, wow, I can't believe that happened. And I'm not sure if the scale was just all of it. I'm sure it wasn't. But it was definitely a part of the program that was, I didn't like, and I don't think it was healthy for anyone.
Yeah. Even if you think about how you have to have such high performance, athletic performance, you know, in Division I basketball, and they, with this weighing thing, they throw you into a pattern of not eating for optimal performance, because that would
exactly
good nutrition, regular meals.
I mean, they provided regular meals for us, but that didn't mean we had to eat them, right? And when I decided that I was going to get weighed in, well, I was not going to eat. And then of course you're not going to perform well. You don't have the proper nutrition to perform well. And I'm sure it carried over. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember being that age, and it's hard to imagine, you know, with the insecurities. I remember the insecurities, and it's hard to imagine throwing a scale on top of that.
Right. It was hard enough as yourself, if you put yourself on the scale, what you thought about yourself when you, let alone in front of somebody. Yeah, it was pretty humiliating. So then it's interesting though. So then I went to medical school, and obviously I didn't have to get on the scale with anybody, which was great.
So good.
but you know, so there was that pattern, and you have that habit brain that wants to go back to previous habits, and you're used to that. So you tend to still restrict. And I ate much better because I was eating for myself, but you still have that restrictive pattern, and also some anxiety and worry about, like, what if I eat this? What's going to happen? Like, you think it's going right to your hips, or you're going to get a belly. And it's just like, it's not a really healthy place to be, because you spend so much time and energy in your brain about food that you could contribute to so many things, so many other ways. And so, you know, it did change. It got better through medical school. And then of course you have your kids, right? And the weight gain starts. And you start having the belly and all the thoughts come up, and the uncomfortable feeling, right?
Yeah.
You've never been this weight before and you're way heavier than you ever were. And I remember somebody taking a picture of me and I said, throw that, throw that out. But, we should really be as moms or as pregnant women, we should be excited about ourselves, and
Yeah.
not shaming ourselves about just the way we look because we have a belly. So there's
Right.
a lot of shaming that goes on, and guilt when it comes to pregnancy as well. And then you have to lose the weight afterwards, right?
Right. Right. In a certain
Yeah.
amount of time. People talk about, how fast did you lose it? And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely we put pressure on ourselves to be a certain weight in a certain time frame as a goal because we think it's going to make us feel better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, and I didn't have that coaching back then. Now I would have said, well, I'm going to feel good now and lose my weight. Like I
right.
feel like myself and lose my weight at the same time. I don't have to not like myself until I lose the weight.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about how getting coached, helped change your relationship with food.
So I think the first thing that was really, really good for me was probably the thought awareness.
Mhm.
So when you get coached, you have to sort of write down a lot of your negative thinking, like you don't really look at all the time. It kind of
Mm.
dargons around in your brain, but you don't actually look at it. And when you see it on a piece of paper, how mean we are to ourselves, and figuring out why, it really sort of makes you think about, okay, that's just a habit, an old habit from an old belief that I can probably, it's not serving me, and I could probably change it. And so instead of like getting mad at myself for eating that extra cookie or walking in the kitchen and just grabbing something, which is not on my plan, I think, well, why did I do that? So you sort of like, oh, because I thought that it didn't matter, or I thought that it was okay because it smelled so good. Like, so all these different thoughts come up.
Mhm.
Um, but the thing that I think that helped me the most was the scale. So when you get coached, the scale becomes just a fact. It's just a mathematical problem. You put yourself on the scale, you look at a number, and that number doesn't mean anything until you have a thought about it, right?
Yeah.
So when you have
Yeah.
a thought, my new thoughts are not like, oh my gosh, I'm so overweight, I'm not at my goal weight in X amount of time. My new thought is, that's a number. And what do I need to do next? What can I learn from this number? It's just a number. So
Yeah.
it's much healthier, so that when I look at myself, I say, oh, I must have been off my protocol. Maybe I need to do something different today. So you learn something instead of just like saying really bad things about yourself to yourself.
And I would offer that, just to people listening, that almost anyone who has a regular healthy weight as an adult woman has some sort of eating plan or protocol that they follow, whether it's filling half their plate with veggies is their thing, or having breakfast or not having breakfast, or some sort of plan where they think about nourishing their body with healthy food, and they kind of think about it, whether it's the day before, or weekly planning, or some people eat the same lunch every day.
Mhm.
I just bring that up for people who aren't aware about food protocols.
Yeah. The when you have that intent, when you switch to more intentional, that's the planning part. And
Mhm.
so I think that's a lot. It allows you to get rid of that old habits and old beliefs. So you have that path that is so clear in your head where you're going to go. But when you have a plan and it's intentional, that you have, whatever it is, like you said, like I do 3 meals and I always have a snack. I've sometimes done 2 meals. I didn't feel like it worked for me. I sometimes did intermittent fasting. It depended on how many hours. But when
Yeah.
you have that plan ahead of time, it's so helpful to sort of stick to it. It's easier to stick to it. And then when you don't, knowing you're not going to, like, we're not going to be perfect on all our plans and
Right. Right.
plans. We're human. Knowing that it's not time to judge myself that I did something wrong. There's nothing wrong that happened. We're just going to learn from this. And what was I feeling at the time? And that I like doing that the next day. I look back and say, what did I do well in my eating plan yesterday? What didn't I do well and that I can work on? Because it's very helpful to realize, because I know my witching hour which I call is
Yeah.
my like emotional hour, is like when I
Right.
eat. So I come home from work and I know I am driving home, I'm in the car and I'm exhausted and I'm like, here we
Yeah.
go. I just know I want to eat something. I just know I want to eat something. And I know it's more, I'm just tired and I'm going to go to boredom eating. And I don't want to do that. I want to be able to eat when my dinner and the plan is. So I'll have a shower and then I'll sometimes just lie on the couch and watch some TV, get something to drink. Usually I can just allow water to suffice for the boredom,
For the boredom
boredom
part.
hungry.
Yeah. It is amazing when when you work hard all day, you're a little dehydrated too. Like a glass of water, it sounds silly because we're not trying to like fill our stomachs with water. We're actually need some water, right?
Yes. And I probably need to drink more. Like I feel like I'm really thirsty at the end of the day. And I try to drink as much as I can throughout the day. But yeah, I definitely think at the end of the day, there's some dehydration there. And
Yeah.
that actually helps with cravings a little bit too. If you have a craving for something, if you drink water, it actually decreases the craving. And if you just give yourself like 10 minutes, it sort of decreases the craving.
I
It's very
sometimes even
helpful.
think that our body is like, I'm a little dehydrated, and our brain goes, let's have a snack. And that's not
Yeah.
actually, you know what I mean? It's almost like there's like that funny little thing. My brain says that when I'm dehydrated. And then I have to tell myself, actually, I think I'm just really thirsty
Yes.
because
Oh,
I've been sitting not
absolutely.
working and
Right. Oh yeah, I'm thirsty. Let's have a snack. I love it. It's so true. And that's where my brain goes too. Especially mine's probably let's have chocolate. Like that's where my brain goes to. And just
Perfect.
one piece always turns into three pieces, right? So
Right,
let's
right.
just
And then
have
you're
the
still
water.
thirsty.
And you're so thirsty. Now I'll have my water. Let's put it in the wrong order.
Right, right.
That's where the intentional planning helps, so that
Yeah.
like, I think if I just said to myself and I put it on honestly, maybe I need to put more water on my plan as far as like after work, that's my rehydration time.
Mhm.
Like that might even be helpful too,
Yeah.
because you're absolutely right. Water is so key to weight loss. And it's not to fill us up. It'll decrease the cravings and your body needs water.
Yeah. And then you're less stressed. Your body's less stressed. So it is
Mhm.
happier to let go of pounds if you're on a weight loss journey. And
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
so one of another reason why Lara is on the show today is she is going to be coaching with my weight loss program this winter, which is super exciting. And Lara, can you explain kind of what's your favorite part about coaching about food and weight loss?
Well, I love the part of weight loss that I really love, besides doing the protocols and the plans. I really love getting into the self-love part. I just think that as women, we don't give ourselves enough credit for who we are and how we can show up in the world. And weight is just a part of it. But when you sort of fix that mindset of weight and body image, it just spills over to your whole life and you love yourself even more. And you'll put yourself out there to create even more in your life that you never knew you had, because you had so much mind drama over food, what to eat, when to eat, why did I eat that much? All that mind chatter goes away. And it's amazing how how amazing how your life can be.
Oh, so good. I love it. I totally love it.
Fun, right? Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming and sharing your story with us today. That's not always an easy thing to share but really helpful, really helpful.
Well, I hope it did help some people. I mean, that's our goal here, is to help more women with their weight and their bodies and their love for themselves and their self-love, and showing
Definitely.
themselves some kindness and being gentle with themselves. Well, I appreciate being here. It was great to see you.
Yeah,
And I
great to
can't
see
wait to
you
coach
always.
with you in the winter.
Yes, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Okay. You take care, Heather.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.